In the wild, fast-moving world of trading, we're constantly told to focus on hundreds of different things, right? We're trying to find that perfect signal, time the perfect entry, predict the next big move. But what if I told you there's one single decision, one that you make before you even hit the buy button, that determines your success or failure more than all of that other stuff combined?
So let's just dive right in with this quote, because really it's the core idea of everything we're talking about today. Think about that for a second. It's a pretty provocative thought, isn't it? It basically says that your brilliant analysis, your sophisticated model, none of it matters nearly as much as the simple question, how big should my bet be? It argues that most traders don't blow up because their ideas were wrong. They blow up because their bets were way, way too big. And this really lays it all out. On the left, you've got all the glamorous, intellectual stuff that people love to talk about, the things they write books on. But over on the right, that's the one simple, unglamorous variable that actually determines whether you survive in this game. You can think of it like the governor on an engine. I mean, you can have the most powerful engine in the world, but without that little device to control it, it's just going to redline and blow itself to pieces.
Okay, so why is this the case? How can one little variable be so powerful? Well, let's unpack the simple and honestly undeniable math behind it. You're about to see how a disciplined approach to sizing can actually protect you, even from your own analytical mistakes. It all starts with this absolutely fundamental concept, capital at risk. Before you even think about how much you could make, you have to define your potential pain. And this isn't some vague feeling, okay? It's a hard number. You have to decide in cold, hard dollars, what is the absolute maximum amount you are willing to lose if this idea turns out to be completely wrong. And this is how we turn that idea into action. Now, I know this formula on the screen might look a little technical, but its purpose is actually incredibly simple. It's all about enforcing consistency. By standardizing your risk unit, let's say, for example, 1% of your total capital, you make sure that every single position you take on, whether it's a crazy volatile tech stock or a slow-moving commodity, carries the exact same potential for damage to your portfolio. It puts you in control.
All right, now we're getting into a really critical idea that explains why sizing mistakes can be so catastrophic. It seems simple, right? If you double your position size, you double your potential loss. Makes sense. But the reality of the markets is so much more painful than that. The consequences of being wrong just don't scale in a nice, neat, straight line.
This chart shows you exactly why. When a trade goes badly against you, especially a big one, all these other nasty factors kick in. Suddenly, liquidity can just evaporate. That means there's no one on the other side to sell to at the price you need. Your stop-loss order might get blown right past. Heck, the very act of you trying to dump a huge position can shove the price down even further. So while you thought you just doubled your exposure, the realized pain, the actual loss, becomes so much greater. It's amplified.
And all of this leads to the most visceral, the most dangerous consequence of bad sizing, what I call the drawdown death spiral. This is that deep, dark, and mathematically brutal hole you can dig for yourself. And this is where trading stops being a game of probabilities and turns into a desperate fight just to survive. So let me just ask you a question to really frame this. Imagine your portfolio takes a 50% hit. That's awful, of course. But you could just make 50% back, and you're all good, right? You're back to even? Well, I'm afraid the math is not nearly that kind.
The arithmetic here is just brutal. There's no other word for it. Look at this. A 10% loss needs an 11% gain to recover. Okay, that's manageable. A 25% loss needs a 33% gain. Getting tougher, for sure. But then look at the jump. A 50% loss requires a 100% gain. You have to double your remaining money just to get back to where you started. Avoiding those big losses isn't just a good strategy. It's a mathematical necessity for survival.
So, if the math of recovery is that punishing, it forces us to completely reframe our entire objective here. The goal of position sizing is not about optimizing our profits, no. The primary, the absolute #1 goal is to ensure our survival, period.
And this is the huge mental shift every single long-term trader has to make. We're all tempted, of course, to ask that first question. It's human nature. But the professionals, the ones who actually last, they obsess over the second one. They actively imagine a plausible, painful string of losses, a real nightmare scenario. And then they size their positions specifically so that even if that nightmare happens, they can still wake up, log in, and trade the next day.
I want to leave you with this final, powerful idea that really wraps this whole thing up. We're often so afraid of missing out on a big gain, and that fear tempts us to bet big. But the math is crystal clear. Being too aggressive and overbetting will destroy your ability to grow your capital far more quickly and far more certainly than being a little too conservative ever will. At the end of the day, survival is what allows your edge to compound over time. And survival? Well, it's first and foremost a sizing decision.